The final meeting title. Humans just laughed, and the Galactic Council's diplomacy crumbled. The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Every seat was filled, every screen was glowing. Every alien leader was present, waiting for one thing: the arrival of the humans. Tall warriors from the Rogue species stood at the door, gripping their shock spears. The air smelled of metal, fear, and something strange hope. The supreme speaker of the council, a golden-skinned being named Tevaler, stood tall at the center platform. He had prepared a long speech, one of peace and unity. Then the doors opened. The human ambassador walked in, alone, no guards, no advisors, no weapons. He wore a simple dark suit, his expression calm. His name was Ambassador Dean Keller, and everyone in the galaxy had heard of him. Some feared him, others respected him, but none could predict him. Keller looked around the room as if he was walking into a quiet classroom. He nodded politely to the supreme speaker. Then he smiled, a small smile, too calm, too confident. That smile made the Relt grip their spears tighter. It made the Plathorian generals whisper in their own tongues. Tevaler began to speak. Ambassador Keller, we welcome you in peace, he said. The Council believes we can end the tension between Earth and the Union. We offer equal status, shared resources, and Dean Keller raised one hand. Slowly, the speaker stopped, confused. The hall went quiet again. Keller took one breath, then spoke. I came here to hear your offer, he said, and now that I've heard it. He laughed. It was soft at first, then louder, then echoing. The entire chamber froze. A human, standing before the most powerful beings in the galaxy, was laughing, not in fear, not in mockery, but in disbelief. You offer peace now, Keller said, wiping a tear from his eye. After ignoring our signals, breaking trade, surrounding our colonies, now you want to share what you tried to take, Tevaler tried to reply. But Keller's voice cut through him like a blade. You think Earth forgot, he said, stepping forward. You think we didn't see your warships accidentally cross our borders. You think we didn't notice when your spies tried to steal our tech. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small silver box. He placed it on the floor of the council hall. It began to glow. Inside this box is the complete record of every diplomatic act you've committed against Earth in the last 20 years, he said. Every lie, every threat, every silent betrayal. Keep it, he added. Make copies if you like. Then he turned away. You don't want peace, Keller said as he walked toward the exit. You want obedience. As he reached the doors, he stopped. Without turning, he said his final words. Earth is not angry, he said. We're just done talking. And then, the moment no one expected, he laughed again. Once, clean and cold, the doors closed behind him. The council chamber erupted. Some shouted in fear, others in anger. Some asked if it was a bluff. Others whispered, what if it wasn't? Tevaler picked up the silver box with trembling hands. He looked at the data inside. His golden face turned pale. It's all true, he whispered. They knew everything. From the shadows of the chamber, a small alien child watching the whole event turned to her mother and asked, Mom, why did the human laugh? Her mother, eyes wide, whispered back, because he wasn't scared. And across the galaxy, every leader received the same message at the same time. Just two simple words, no talks. The galaxy had spoken for centuries, but Earth had finally answered with a laugh and a closed door. And so diplomacy died, not with a war, but with a smile. Whispers in the dark title. Humans just laughed, and the Galactic Council's diplomacy crumbled the silence after the laugh didn't fade. It grew, like a cold wind moving across the stars. Ambassador Keller had returned to Earth. He gave no interviews, no statements, no explanations. He simply disappeared behind the veil of Earth's defenses. And then, one by one, strange things began to happen. At first, it was a small incident. A communication relay near the outer edge of the Council's territory went offline. They blamed solar storms. Then, a supply station on Voro 3 lost all power for 6 minutes. Their entire food reserve vanished without a trace. The Council brushed it off as bad luck. But luck doesn't move with purpose. It doesn't leave messages. Behind, on the side of the empty station, written in burned metal, were 2 words: still watching. Within 10 days, 6 more systems reported problems, blackouts, system errors, vanishing data, but no casualties, no explosions, just silence. It was war without fire, conflict without noise, fear without warning. Inside the Council war room, alarms were rising, but every admiral gave the same answer: no signs of human ships. They searched every border, checked every signal, and found nothing. Supreme Speaker Tveiler called an emergency meeting. Only half of the members showed up. The others had locked down their planets. They didn't trust anyone, not even each other. One voice cut through the chaos. It belonged to Elder Kresh, a frail old diplomat from the Shyrix people. She spoke in a whisper, but her words made everyone quiet. "I remember Earth's silence," she said. "Long ago, after the Xeran betrayal, humans stopped talking. For 10 years they said nothing. And when they finally acted, 3 fleets disappeared. Some laughed nervously. Others did not. Maybe they're bluffing again," said a young senator. "They can't possibly have this kind of reach." A technician ran into the chamber. Before anyone could respond, she was pale, shaking, and her eyes were filled with fear. "We received a message," she said. "No signal source, no traceable origin, but it played across every ship, every screen, every planet." Tveiler demanded to hear it. The technician pressed a button. A voice filled the room, cold, calm, human. "You watched our silence and called it weakness," it said. "You heard our laugh and thought it was madness. But you forgot the truth." The voice paused, then spoke 2 chilling words: "We remember." The chamber fell silent again. Then, without warning, the lights flickered. Every data screen in the Council chamber turned black, and a single blinking message appeared on all of them. "You still think this is a joke?" On the far edge of Council space, near the Telnari Nebula, a science vessel named the Harrow vanished. No wreckage, no signal, no escape pods. Gone. The Council sent ships to search. They found nothing, just 1 buoy floating where the ship had been. When they brought it aboard and opened its logs, they found a final audio recording. Breathing, heavy, panicked, a whisper, recorded in the last second. "They're already here." Panic spread faster than light. Markets crashed, alliances cracked, and still no official word from Earth. Not even a denial. In a dark room inside the Earth Space Command building, a human general watched the reports. He smiled slightly, then turned to his officer. "Phase 1? The officer asked. The general nodded. "Let them talk," he said. "Let them guess." The Galactic Council had tried to speak to Earth, but Earth had answered with silence, and now that silence whispered. Across the stars, not loud, but everywhere, and worse than fear, it was doubt. The forgotten warning before Earth went quiet, before the Council ignored their voice. There had been a message, a warning so clear, so honest, yet so easy to forget. It came 10 years ago, from a small human vessel, drifting near Council space. The ship's name was Resolve, and its crew just 10 people sent out a broadcast. The message was not long. It wasn't even angry. It was calm, too calm. The humans had said, "We understand your fear, but if you ever cross our line again, we will not speak twice." The Council laughed back then. They believed Earth was just another loud young species. Loud, brave, and foolish. But one man remembered that broadcast. Admiral Tyron Val, an old warrior from the Zarn Dominion. He had fought in 100 battles. and none had left him shaking like the memory of that voice. Now, with systems falling and ships vanishing, Vel broke silence and spoke at the Emergency Council war table. "I told you this would happen." He said, "We thought their silence was surrender, but it was strategy." The others glared at him. Some called him paranoid, but Tveiler looked shaken. "Why didn't you remind us earlier?" One senator asked. Vel leaned forward. "I did," he said, "but you were too busy counting your votes." Meanwhile, in a secret vault beneath Earth's surface, a machine long forgotten hummed to life. It had no name, only a code name, EMBER9. It had not been activated for 20 years. Its purpose? To remember what the galaxy chose to forget. Inside EMBER9's memory banks were logs, maps and audio, hundreds of hours of Galactic Council meetings, every insult, every lie, every plan whispered behind Earth's back, and it was all being sent quietly, invisibly, to someone. At the same time, deep in Council space, a ghost ship appeared, old, battered, and human-made. It carried no crew, no weapons, only a single transmission on repeat, the same voice from the Resolve 10 years ago, playing again and again. "We warned you once. We do not warn twice." Ships were sent to intercept the ghost ship, but when they approached, their sensors failed, their engines stuttered, their screens went black. And then came a new signal, a data stream filled with Council secrets leaked from their own servers, broadcast across hundreds of planets. The people began to panic. Many realized the truth. Earth hadn't gone dark. They had been watching, listening, and recording everything. From within their core worlds, humans had mapped the entire structure of Council power. And now they were tearing it apart without firing a shot. Back in the war room, Admiral Vel stood again. "I fought beside humans once," he said. "They do not bluff. They do not brag. When they say something once, believe them." Tveiler finally looked broken, not because of what humans had done, but because he knew they were right. "We laughed," he whispered. "We laughed, and now we're the joke." Across the stars, broadcasts continued. Mysterious images and messages appeared on neutral systems. Earth never claimed them, but everyone knew who sent them, and each one ended with the same chilling line. "You should have listened." Humanity had not attacked. They had only reminded the galaxy of what was forgotten. One warning, one laugh, and now one reckoning the sound of fear began with silence. But now the galaxy could hear something, a sound so quiet it did not come from speakers or channels. It came from inside the minds of those who once ruled. The sound of fear. Ships were no longer missing. They were vanishing without resistance. Entire scout units lost their engines mid-flight. No explosions, no wreckage, just systems shutting down like someone had pressed pause on the universe. On the planet Velturn 7, a Council research station flickered for one last second. Then darkness. Every backup failed. Every emergency light blinked once and died. When rescue teams arrived, they found no one. Only empty boots, food still warm. And one thing written on the wall. We asked nicely. In the command halls of the Galactic Council, tension was no longer political. It was survival. Tveiler ordered emergency lockdowns. Admirals shouted over each other. Senators demanded explanations. But deep inside, they all knew the truth. This wasn't a threat. It was a demonstration. One by one, species that once mocked humanity were pulling their fleets back, not to prepare for war, but to avoid being noticed in the Kovar. Quadrant. A heavy battleship named Magistran drifted silently. The crew had gone blind. Not physically, but every camera, every sensor, every screen showed static, and in that static, a shape appeared, a human outline, standing, saying nothing. The crew screamed, some begged, but when help arrived, there were no signs of injury. Only one message carved into the captain's chair. "We see you." For the first time in recorded history, the Council admitted It had no idea what to do, because nothing like this had happened before. Not even during the ancient wars. No missiles, no invasions. Only whispers, shadows, and fear. Admiral Tyron Vell stood in front of the crisis board. Behind him, flickering maps showed more than 40 incidents across 9 sectors. Still no proof. It was Earth. Still no claims. Only patterns, and the pattern was perfect. They're everywhere, Vell said. But they're not attacking. What do they want? A younger diplomat asked. Vell looked at the blinking red lights across the galactic map. His voice was dry. They want us to listen. Then, every communication channel in Council space went black for exactly 30 seconds. When they returned, there was no image. Only a voice human, calm, and this time, different from Keller, it was a woman's voice. Clear and sharp, like a knife made of light. You had your chance, the voice said. You asked us to kneel, and we walked away. We are not angry. We are not at war. We are. Not even near you. We're already inside. Every star system heard it, every planet, every ship, every military base. Even the children on school transports heard it, and with that voice came a new sound, a sound no one in the galaxy recognized, because it was human. It was the quiet sound of a match being lit, a soft flame crackling through cold space. The message ended. No one moved. No one spoke. Tveiler stood slowly. He looked at the others and said the truth no one wanted to admit. We are not at the center of power anymore. In the far corner, Elder Kresh whispered what the others feared most. No shots fired, she said. And yet, we've already lost. Across the galaxy, a sound echoed, not loud, not violent, just quiet enough to break empires, the sound of fear. The silent strike the galaxy held its breath. No fleets were moving. No ambassadors were speaking. Every screen stayed on, waiting for something, anything. But Earth said nothing. And that silence was the loudest thing in the galaxy. On the outer rim of Council space floated Outpost 9, a massive diplomatic hub with over 50 species living under one roof. It had once been Earth's assigned observation post, until the Council took it back, without notice, without reason, just like everything else they took. Now, without warning, it was empty. Rescue teams arrived in full armor. They expected a massacre, an invasion, but what they found made no sense. There was no blood, no damage, no alarms, just a quiet station, running perfectly, and on every wall, written in perfect glowing red handwriting, was one phrase: we were never locked out. The phrase repeated in different languages, over doors, over screens, even carved into dining tables, and near the center chamber, where the Earth delegation once sat. A chair spun slowly, still warm. The silence was no longer peaceful. It was surgical. One admiral called it an illusion. Another called it a trick. But the Council's top spy master said only one word: precision. Hours later, a military convoy disappeared. It was traveling from Corf Prime to Council Core. 6 ships, all armed, all experienced. They simply vanished. Then came the footage from a drone that survived for just 2 minutes. The video showed a shadow, not a ship, not even a weapon, just darkness swallowing the convoy one by one. In the final frame, a human symbol flashed, an old Earth. Letter burned into space itself. E. That same day, a massive Council battleship named Cradle of Peace went dark mid-flight. It was one of the oldest and strongest in the fleet. 12,000 soldiers on board. No enemy ships nearby. No asteroid fields. Gone. When the Council recovered the black box from its emergency beacon, they expected screams, explosions, alarms, but the last recording was calm. One soldier whispering. Into his come. They're here, he said. Inside. And then silence. For the first time, the Galactic Council held a vote to retreat, not to counterattack, not to send a fleet, just pull back, because Earth had never fired a single weapon. They didn't need to. They were removing threats one by one without permission, without warning. Tveilir stood in front of the assembly. No speech this time. Only questions. Why? Didn't they invade? He asked aloud. Why didn't they demand anything? What do they want? No one had an answer. Until the transmission came. It interrupted every meeting, every screen, even personal devices. A single sentence played in a calm human voice. He already asked. And then came the silent strike. A council satellite in orbit over 72 planets turned red. All at once. No explosions. No hacking. Just red. It meant one thing. Earth could shut everything down whenever they wanted. And they were proving it. But they hadn't. Not fully. They were holding back, waiting. Not for permission. Not for surrender. For something else, understanding, the council breaks didn't happen with a war. There were no firestorms, no space battles, no fleets burning across the stars. The fall of the Galactic Council came quietly, piece by piece, not by force, but by fear. It started with whispers inside the council's own walls. Senators stopped showing up. Whole planetary leaders disconnected from council channels. They weren't resigning. They were running from something they couldn't see, couldn't fight, couldn't even understand. One by one, key systems failed, trade routes froze, defense networks glitched, all without a single missile. Fired. Inside the council headquarters, Tveilir stood alone in the Great Hall. The seats around him were empty. Not even guards remained. He looked at the once proud banners of the council, each representing a world that now refused to answer his calls. And in the silence, he heard it again. That same human laugh echoing through memory. Not cruel, not joyful, just final. A message appeared on the main screen. It wasn't intercepted. It wasn't hacked. It was placed there by someone with full access. We didn't break the system. We let it break itself. In a dark corner of the galaxy, Admiral Vel sat aboard a neutral station. He watched as council territory shrank by the hour. But Earth didn't move forward, didn't conquer, didn't plant flags. They just let the silence grow, and everyone else backed away. The fear was not about what Earth had done, but what they might do next. And still, Earth made no demands. They took no prisoners, made no public speeches. They simply existed. And the galaxy bent around that existence. Then came the message that shattered the last hope. It was not broadcast. It was printed on real paper. Hand-delivered to the last council communication hub by a single unknown drone. The message read, "There are no negotiations. There are no ultimatums. There is only memory." That word again, memory. Earth remembered everything. And now, so did a galaxy. On a distant moon, a small alien child asked his father, "Why is everyone afraid of the humans?" The father didn't answer for a moment, then knelt and said softly, "Because they didn't need to raise their voices. They just stopped listening." That night, across dozens of planets, statues of council leaders were taken down, not by war, but by the very people they once ruled. Old allies turned away. Former enemies reached out to Earth quietly, respectfully, not in fear of destruction, but in fear of being ignored, being irrelevant, being forgotten. Inside a secure Earth facility, deep underground, a woman in a black uniform observed the reports. She smiled, not in pride, but in understanding. "Protocol Ember complete," she whispered. "Let the galaxy lead itself now." The council did. Not fall to warships, it fell to memory, to consequence, to truth. And in the ashes of its silence, a single phrase remained on every abandoned screen. You should have listened. The galaxy changes forever. The council didn't collapse in fire. It simply faded, like an old dream forgotten after waking up. No grand surrender, no last speeches, just silence, and Earth still said nothing. But across the stars, things were changing. Fast, planets once loyal to the council tore down its emblems. Old alliances rewrote their laws. New governments formed, not around fear of Earth, but around the fear of being ignored by it. In the trade hub of Norix 4, shops once banned to humans now sold Earth tech at double price, not because Earth asked, but because no one wanted to be left behind. On the moon of Selkin Prime, a once loud anti-Earth broadcaster suddenly vanished from the air. His final words were strange. "They never touched me," he had whispered. But I couldn't stop remembering, on hundreds of systems, the phrase, "We remember," had become a religion. No gods, no temples, just a promise to never lie, to never betray, to never underestimate the quiet ones. In the shadows of collapsed council buildings, a generation rose, a generation that had only heard the laughter, not the wars, not the debates, only that one moment, that one laugh that echoed across galaxies, and they built their future on it, not out of love for humans, but out of deep respect, and the understanding that Earth had rewritten diplomacy without saying a word. Inside an old Earth facility deep beneath the Arctic ice, Ambassador Dean Keller looked at a glass screen. It displayed the current galactic map, a map that no longer had consul space written anywhere. A young officer beside him asked, "Sir, they're asking for a treaty, trade, research, even alliance." Keller didn't look away from the screen. He simply smiled. "Did they listen?" he asked. The officer nodded. "Yes, sir." Keller tapped the screen once. "Then maybe we'll answer," he said. Maybe. Back in the stars, something had shifted. No ships, no armies, but the rules. The new leaders of the galaxy didn't fight for power. They fought for attention, for respect, for memory. Because now, everyone knew the truth. Power wasn't in weapons, or fleets, or seats in a council hall. Real power was the ability to leave the room and still be remembered. And Earth had done exactly that. They had walked out, laughed once, and left the galaxy to talk among itself. From that day on, no race ever mocked a quiet voice again. No one laughed too loud at the ones who said nothing, because somewhere out there, humanity was still watching, not angry, not proud, just remembering. And in every corner of space, written on walls, screens, and even in whispers, one phrase became legend. "We asked nicely."